Hey everybody, welcome back to Shop Talk. Today we are finally going to get into an episode actually on one of those Bibles I was telling you about. We're going to go with the newest one, which was the earliest date I can find in it is from 1936. I can't find the copyright date. I think that page is missing, but it's got some tape holding it together. I kind of showed you this a little bit before. The back of it's a little broken. It's well used. And I got an interesting way to kind of go about this that I hope you enjoy. I'm excited about it. This is probably one of the things I'm most excited to get to for this podcast. So we'll kind of jump into it. This is from a relative of mine, and I found dates in it. So the earliest date that I found written in it is 8/30/36. And what I discovered is it's each chapter has a date, and I went through this whole thing. She didn't miss a day. Every single day she read a chapter of the Bible. Now this one is just the New Testament and Psalms, so it's not the entirety of the Bible, but it is the New Testament, and she read every single day. And what I find interesting is, so in 1936, this is when Hitler began remilitarizing the Rhineland, but when you actually get into what was taking place in August of 1936, you have the Olympic Games. The 11th Olympiad began in not just anywhere, but Berlin. And this was really one of those things that it was iffy on if countries were going to go, because they were already not real enthused with some of the things that Hitler was doing. And I'll just read what it says here right on Google when I was doing some research. And it says, on August 1st of 1936, the games of the 11th Olympiad began in Berlin in a climate of heightening political and racial persecution in Nazi Germany. German sporting associations have been excluding Jewish, Roma, and Sinti athletes in accordance with an Aryans-only policy since 1933. So, of course, Hitler is famous for his Aryan race that was supposed to be superior to all of the races. And what I find interesting about that is this idea that essentially that's a genealogy type of thing, right? He's going that his genealogy is superior to any others. And yet when you look at what Jane started reading in August of 1936, it's chapter 1 of Matthew, and that is what you get, the genealogy of Jesus. And so I just want to read verse 17 of chapter 1. It says, so all the generations from Abraham to David are 14 generations, and from David until the carrying away into Babylon are 14 generations, and from the carrying away into Babylon unto Christ are 14 generations. And then it goes a little more into the birth of Jesus. But one of the heroic stories that came out of those Olympic Games was Jesse Owens. And it really was one of those embarrassing Hitler on a very public stage, because his Aryan got beat, and not just by anybody, but by a black man. And that was huge. He's one of our history's heroes in a way. You know, we talk about heroes today, sports heroes today, but this was different. This was pointing out that your genealogy that you think is so great is not what you think it is. And it just, for such an evil figure like Hitler, this was really heroic, not just for America and winning 4 gold medals like we'll talk about, but just in general for the world. It goes on. So up at the very top, James Cleveland Jesse Owens was an American track and field athlete who won 4 gold medals at the 1936 Olympic Games. Owens specialized in the sprints and the long jump and was recognized in his lifetime as perhaps the greatest and most famous athlete in track and field history. And down here, it talks a little bit more about what he actually won. He was the first American to win 4 track and field gold medals at a single Olympics game. He won them in the 100 meter, the 200 meter, the 4x100 meter relay, and the long jump, which is a record that stood unbroken for 48 years. looking at some of the other stuff that they say about him. But yeah, he just, it was such a huge event. But what's really amazing is that the Arian that he competed against, he actually became friends with. And I'll probably say his name wrong, but Luz Long was sternly spoken to by the Nazi Party officials after his time spent with Jesse. Jesse and Luz, I think it's Luz. I'm assuming Luz. I don't know. But they became friends at the Olympics and corresponded for years after that. Jesse would say of his Olympic friendship with Luz, "It took a lot of courage for him to befriend me in front of Hitler," which I bet it did. It goes on to say that Long actually gave Owens a little bit of advice when it came to the long jump and told him that he should jump a few inches before the takeoff board, and helped him out. And he was genuinely happy when he saw Owens win the gold medal. So it was great to see that just because the guy at the top, because when we get into governments like what Hitler's government was, you just kind of do what you're told. Now, unfortunately, we needed more people to stand up to him, but it was a deadly thing to stand up to him. Just like dictators today. I mean, look at Putin. You don't stand up to him either. Mao is you didn't stand up to him. Xi Jinping, you don't really stand up to him. It was a dangerous thing to do. So, quite frankly, Hitler was embarrassed that his guy got beat. But the guy that got beat was a genuinely decent guy and was actually happy for Owens and felt he deserved to win. So that's kind of one of the cool stories about that. I kind of want to go into, of course, you know about the story of how Jesus was born, and it kind of goes into that to finish out chapter 1. It talks about how Joseph was also talked to and basically told, look, this is the real deal. Don't worry about taking Mary as your wife. Do it because it was the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, that fathered this baby. So then it gets into chapter 2, which is also August. This is August 31st, 1936, that she wrote this, or that she read this one. And the part that I want to read about this is, I bet, as is usual, when you disappointed or you angered Hitler, heads rolled. It was a bad thing. And Herod, in a lot of ways, was a tyrant. Not a lot of ways, he was a tyrant also. And when he, let's see here. So in chapter 2, verse 16, and this is a King James version, so some of you may like that. We don't speak like this anymore by any means. Some of you may not like that, but that's okay. So it says, "Then Herod, when he saw that he was mocked of the wise men, was exceedingly wroth, and sent forth and slew all the children that were in Bethlehem and in all the coasts thereof, from 2 years old and under, according to the time which he had diligently inquired of the wise men." So it's crazy sometimes, the similarities, because obviously we saw uncalculable death and misery and tragedy with what Hitler ultimately did. And when she was reading this, that kind of stuff was going on. Maybe not specifically, I'm not sure when the concentration camps happened. I think it's later, and we'll get to that when we get to that point. But either way, Hitler was alive when she was reading this Bible. These games were going on while she was reading this Bible. And I think that's kind of the cool part of this history in this book is it was there. It was around at that time. To us, to me, this is almost like ancient history, it feels like. But it really wasn't that long ago. It's wild how time seems so long ago when these things, we learned about them in a history book. And there's kids now that are learning about 9/11 in a history book. They weren't around. And they're out as adults now. And it makes me feel old. I can't imagine the people that, there's not very many of them left now that remember World War II. But I really admired how you could go through and you could see the dates, and she didn't miss a day. She was in this Bible every single day. And we will get to more things that are inside this Bible, little articles, little poems, and we'll get to that. There's so many cool things in this. I'm really looking forward to doing these and continuing to bring up the history side of things that are going on at the same time. It'll be very interesting when we get to the oldest one. We'll kind of jump around from Bible to Bible, but I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you want to see more of this. Hopefully you do, because I plan on doing it because I love this. I think it's so cool, especially that this actually belonged to somebody in my family. So with all that, thanks for watching. Again, I hope you really enjoyed this, and I look forward to getting into the history and the Bible a lot more in the coming days. So thanks as always. Stay salty and be kind, my friends.